Every real estate agent in New York will tell you the same thing. Prices are low, inventory is available, now is the time to get in. And compared to Manhattan or Long Island, they might have a point. But here is the thing, they will not tell you about the cities on this list. The ones where the drinking water is contaminated with forever chemicals from a military base. And the ones where the property taxes eat 17% of your income before you have paid $1 on your mortgage. We also have cities where the company that built the entire city just packed up and left, taking 60,000 jobs with them. And some of these cities are sitting on top of so much toxic waste that the EPA says there is no clean land left to build on. Today, we are counting down 7 New York cities where you should never buy a home. Not because they are too expensive, because the real cost is something the listing will never show you. Number 7. Niagara Falls is a city of about 47,000 people sitting next to one of the most famous natural wonders on Earth. Millions of tourists visit every year. The historic Victorian homes have character, and prices are incredibly low, with median home values around $104,000. But Niagara Falls was built on top of one of the worst environmental disasters in American history, Love Canal, where Hooker Chemical dumped 21,800 tons of toxic waste in the 1940s and the 1950s, forced the evacuation of 833 families, and created the Federal Superfund Law. EPA found 82 chemical compounds in the ground, including 11 suspected carcinogens. Love Canal was not the only dump. EPA has stated that Niagara Falls has no remaining undeveloped land that is uncontaminated. The population has been cut in half since 1960. Poverty sits at 24%. Crime runs 56% above national figures. And 45% of property in this city is tax exempt. Casinos, state parks, government buildings. That means every homeowner is carrying the tax burden for a city where half the land contributes nothing. Niagara Falls is beautiful to visit. But buying a home on contaminated soil where you are subsidizing everyone else's tax bill is not an investment. It is volunteering to hold a bag that gets heavier every year. Number 6. Jamestown is a city of about 27,000 people tucked into the far southwestern corner of New York State. Buffalo is 80 miles away. Erie, Pennsylvania is 60 miles in the other direction. That isolation is the problem. Home prices have dropped to around $70,000 at the median. Some houses list for under $10,000. You might think you are getting a deal. You are not. You are buying into a market with no economic engine and no path to recovery. Poverty is 25%. Unemployment runs at 8.6%, double the national average. Over 55% of homes were built before 1939. Lead paint, knob and tube wiring, foundations settling for nearly a century. Only 1% of housing has been built since 2000. Home appreciation over the entire past decade has been just 5.9%. That is not growth, that is a flat line. Jamestown's most famous connection is Lucille Ball, and the Comedy Center draws visitors. But tourism cannot save a city this isolated and this far from any job market that matters. When you buy in Jamestown, you are buying a house in a town that the economy forgot. Forgotten towns do not appreciate. Number 5. Elmira is a city of about 26,000 people, sitting almost entirely in the floodplain of the Chemung River. 2/3 of properties face severe flooding risk over the next 30 years. The 1972 Hurricane Agnes flood caused $291 million in damage, displaced 15,000 people, and destroyed thousands of homes. The city never fully recovered. Poverty exceeds 30%. Median household income is around $43,000. Roughly half the national figure, and 66% of homes are valued under $50,000. But do not let those low prices fool you. Elmira has the second highest property tax rate in all of New York State. Add flood insurance, which costs hundreds of dollars per month. When it is time to sell, homes sit on market for 45 to 80 days, and over half sell below asking. The old Superfund sites still contain volatile organics and PCBs. The high school was built on a former industrial site where contamination has been found in soil and groundwater. Elmira is where flooding, extreme taxation, and environmental contamination all meet in one zip code. That is not a deal. That is a trifecta you do not want to win. Number 4. Binghamton is a city of about 47,000 people and the proud birthplace of IBM. At its peak, IBM employed 15,000 people here. Then the Cold War ended, the company restructured, and nearly every job vanished. Today, poverty is 32.6%, nearly 3 times the national average. Property taxes are brutal. Binghamton's rate runs $48.88 per thousand of full value, the highest in the southern tier. On a $156,000 home, that is over $7,600 a year, 17% of median household income before you have paid a penny on your mortgage. The city sits entirely within a floodplain. Broome County has been declared a disaster area 9 times since 1953. IBM also left behind a 350-acre toxic plume of industrial solvents. Vapor mitigation systems have been installed in hundreds of homes. CNN Money named Binghamton one of the fastest shrinking cities in America. That discount you see on the listing exists for a reason, and that reason is the reason you should not buy. That is the kind of sentence that saves you a 30-year mistake. Subscribe. This channel tells you what the listing photos never will. The next 3 cities are where the real traps are hiding. Number 3. Newburgh is a city of about 28,000 people in the Hudson Valley, about 70 miles from Manhattan. Stunning Victorian architecture, tree-lined streets. It sits in affluent Orange County. From the outside, it looks like a hidden gem. It is not. The drinking water is contaminated. Firefighting foam at Stewart Air National Guard Base poisoned the city reservoir with PFAS forever chemicals. Since 2016, the city has relied on temporary water sources. As of 2025, it still has no guaranteed long-term clean supply. A CDC study found elevated PFAS levels in over 3,500 residents. Then there is the crime. Newburgh ranks among the top 100 most dangerous cities in America. Your chance of being a violent crime victim is 1 in 102. Poverty runs 22 to 27%. Over half the housing was built before 1939. HUD has described Newburgh as having all the characteristics of an impoverished urban area. It has a diminishing industrial base, significant crime, substandard housing, and deteriorating infrastructure. Beautiful architecture does not fix poisoned water, and poisoned water is not something you negotiate on closing documents. Number 2. Syracuse is a city of about 148,000 people in central New York. In 2022, Micron Technology promised $100 billion for a semiconductor complex, creating 9,000 direct jobs. The city celebrated. Here's what happened. The project has been delayed 4 times. Groundbreaking slipped to 2026. First chips are expected in 2030 at the earliest. Full production by 2045. That is 2 decades away. In late 2025, $1.2 billion in federal funding was redirected to Idaho. Meanwhile, Syracuse has 14,000 lead service lines, 40% of its water infrastructure. Testing in 2024 found dangerously high lead levels, and officials were placed on leave after flawed testing was exposed. Syracuse has the 2nd highest child poverty rate among large US cities at 46%. School ratings average 2 out of 10. The city bet everything on a mega project that might not arrive for a generation. The lead in the pipes is here today, and lead does not wait for semiconductor fabs to break ground. Number 1 on this list is a city that most people know by the company that built it. Rochester is a city of about 210,000 people in western New York, and Rochester is the city that Kodak made. At its peak in 1982, Eastman Kodak employed 60,400 workers in Rochester alone. Together with Xerox and Bausch and Lomb, these 3 companies employed roughly 60% of the city's entire workforce. Then digital cameras killed film. Kodak filed for bankruptcy, and that workforce of 60,400 collapsed to just 2,300, a 97% decline. The Federal Reserve found that real gross domestic product losses from Kodak's decline canceled out the growth in every other sector in the Rochester metro for over a decade. Today, the poverty rate hovers around 27%, consistently ranking Rochester among the top 5 poorest cities in America for its size. The population has dropped 37% from its 1950 peak. Violent crime runs 62% above the national average. In 2021, the city recorded 81 homicides and declared a state of emergency. Property taxes in Monroe County run at an effective rate of 2.36% on a median home price of $158,000. That is nearly $5,800 a year. School district performance is dismal, with just 13% of students proficient in math. And Kodak's environmental legacy still lingers. From 1990 to 1994, Kodak ranked number 1 in the nation for discharges of cancer causing chemicals into waterways. Rochester has good bones. The culture is rich. The surrounding suburbs have excellent schools. But buying a home in the city itself is buying into a market that has been waiting for recovery since the iPhone killed the camera roll. And waiting is not a real estate strategy. Rochester's number 1 on this list because it represents what happens when an entire region depends on a single company and that company disappears. The factories closed, the jobs left, and the housing market is still paying the price. Those are 7 New York cities where you should never buy a home. Not because New York is bad. There are thriving markets in the Hudson Valley suburbs and the capital region. But within that state, there are cities where the numbers do not work. Toxic waste zones, flooded river towns, isolated communities, abandoned company towns, and cities with contaminated water and broken promises. If you are buying in New York, do the research, check the taxes, test the water, and look up what the biggest employer was 20 years ago. If the answer is a company that no longer exists, that tells you everything. Subscribe to this channel. Drop a comment if your city made the list. We will see you in the next one.